Happy Sunday. So today I want to talk about human connection. I want to talk about relationship. I want to talk about this desperation that's in the air, this need for human interaction, engagement. Like, we need each other. Humans in unity is what makes humanity, and without that, there is no humanity. We beings did not incarnate into this life to go hide off into caves, to isolate, to be in silence or solitude. In fact, that's when we feel the least connected. You know, it's one thing to go within and to acquire that deep knowing about yourself, but it's the application, the integration, the putting into practice what it is that you become aware of within you, that you go out into the world and you share, you put into practice. You know, when you meet people, because life is about relationship, when you meet other people, you're seeing you through their eyes. That relationship, how you relate to another, is how you relate to yourself. Are you able to slow down enough to observe? Are you patient? Are you kind? Are you compassionate with others? Because that's a direct relationship that you have to yourself. What we give to another is a small window into how we treat ourselves. Sometimes we overdo for others and underdeliver for ourselves. And sometimes we're so impatient with ourselves, we find ourselves very impatient with others. Only we know the answers. And that every person that we come into contact with is there to be a mirror and a reflection and a witness to our life, to help us to grow, to evolve, to better communicate, to better know ourselves. See, our vibe, where we're at, is how others show up to us. And every interaction that we have, every experience, every person that comes to us, is showing up to us where we're at. And we have to be willing to also show up to others where they're at. It's this divine dance, this balancing of the scales of life that we're all playing and learning as we go, right? This is what I have found in my own personal life. There's nothing I won't speak of that I haven't personally applied or learned through my own experiences. I'm not telling you how to be. I'm sharing how I've learned. That every reaction that I've had toward another person has also been an internal judgment. If I dislike someone else, it's an aspect of myself I have to hone in on. Ooh, I don't like that about me. It's not about the other person. That when someone takes me out of my peace, which is never the case, we give them our power, that I chose that. That if I choose to be in a situation of struggle and strife, is it because it's familiar? Or is it because I'm defending something that I hold dear to me? See, now this is the interesting aspect of life, is that we all have addictions. And many of you know I facilitate addiction programs. Our biggest addiction is to our belief systems. And most of the times, that's what people go into war over, is defending their beliefs, or their opinions, or their ideas, or a story. It's all part of your belief system. You can say it's just something, whatever. It's no big deal. It's still up in here. It's not a physical thing that you are defending. It's all created in your mind. The stories, the ideologies, those are attachments. And everything is constantly changing around us, evolving and growing, and so shouldn't we? Therefore, you should always be looking to evolve and maybe have a flexible mindset. If we're so rigid and dogmatic in our own beliefs, that will be our own downfall. That will be our own cause of suffering, is defending something we're unwilling to dislodge, to challenge, to question. And if we're not questioning what we're thinking or believing, we will always have someone else who will show up in our lives to knock us off our kilter, our balance, because that's what people are for, to show us where we're at in our lives. Showing up to show you how compassionate you are, you aren't. How patient you are, you aren't. How loving, how kind. How tolerant or intolerant. I see, everybody's got opinions, right? We all know what that does, right? They're like assholes, everybody just thinks theirs doesn't stink so bad. And it's so crazy because everybody wants to be heard and seen. But how many are willing to listen? Truly listen, not just to the words, but also what's not being said. There's a desperate air in the collective right now. People want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be connected to somebody. But at what cost? Is it out of desperation, or do you have standards? Do you still align with integrity? Or are you just so desperate you'll take anything? And you fall into old patterns of belief, old patterns of behavior, the old patterns from the past that take you out of your peace. Maybe you've been working hard on yourself and you catch yourself when you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's the old me. I've been working really hard to not fall back into the traps. Addiction takes at least, any addiction, any belief, any habit you want to change, takes at least 40 days to shift into something new, to replace it with a new habit. And when we think that, I'll get to that, are we holding ourselves accountable? Are we taking personal responsibility? Because here's the irony. Energy speaks volumes even without your voice. Your presence can be felt. People can pick up on the sense of desperation, that smell. And you know what feeds on desperation? Pariahs, vampires, energy suckers. So even if you're somebody who's desperate for human interaction, call somebody you can trust, but don't put yourself in places like bars and pubs and clubs where in your mind you think, oh, well, I know what I want, but you still have that lingering energy, that air of desperation that will cause you to draw in attacks, psychic attacks, energetic vampires. You really need to check yourself during these times, because we're really in a place where, isolation does crazy things to people. It makes you a little insane. It makes you a little bit out of your mind. We're humans who need to be in human connection with one another. Nobody was meant to go hide in the caves and the Himalayas and become these perfect monks of, oh, I'm so enlightened. That's a bunch of bullshit. You want to know the truth about that stuff? Most of them can't integrate it into real life. That's escapism. There's a lot of that already gone on. There's a lot of that in the spiritual community. People hiding out, thinking they're not going to be seen. They can speak the spiritual lingo, but not actually walk the spiritual talk. It's a lot of that in the world. And it doesn't really matter what circle you convene in or belong to or identify with. There's bullshit in it all. There is. People think they know it all. Diarrhea of the mouth. You can't get a word in edgewise. talk about other people being narcissistic but not actually owning their own. Talking about how people are draining and exhausting but actually witnessing the person that's claiming that is actually exhausting themselves and creating the drama. Yeah, I'm here, I listen to a lot of people, but I'm also that compassionate, tough love mama. I'll call you out on it too. Because I'm not here to waste my time, and I'm not here to waste yours. True love is actually calling you out too and holding you accountable in your integrity. That when you say you want something, don't go flip-flop over here and say, oh, I don't want to talk about it. Non-confrontational. You can say one thing but not want to actually have it come back at you. That's actually about entitlement. A lot of people, they're desperate for connection, but they don't want the confrontation. They don't want to be held accountable for their own behavior. You know what real courage is? What real vulnerability is? Owning your own shit and not letting it own you. That when people come at you and you can smell the desperation a mile away, that you're compassionate and loving, and that maybe even give them a little nudge like, I see what's in you. You're better than that. Don't lower your standards just because you need to be around people. Set a standard of what it is you will and won't subject yourself to. Tolerate or not. Because if you don't set a standard and hold others accountable, the only person that suffers is you. And nobody's here to point a finger at anybody. Because we're all in kind of like that, I really miss hanging out, I really miss my friends, but then, there's a lot of divide going on right now. And like I said earlier, most people are willing to go to war over defending their belief systems than they are to just see one another and see what you have in common, to find solutions, to work on up in your vibe. And I can tell you this much. Humans need one another. And if you don't know that by now, you're missing out. We humans are what make up humanity and unity. When humans come together and we need one another. When people start working on focusing on their presence, their own personal vibration, the true thing that's going to save the world is not getting distracted on what's going out around them. Everything outside of this moment, yourself, is a distraction from your life, from living more powerfully and more fully. If I could tell you anything, go find your peace and get out in nature and play, because that's what life's about. You live in your life and enjoying it. Don't let all that external stuff take you out of your peace, because the truth is we didn't know about all the atrocities going on in the world until all of a sudden technology told us about it. Technology's overwhelmed us to the max, don't you think? And if we're willing to give in to what we see on the little screen, we lose out what's really going on in our own lives. That's giving away our power. So all I can say is reclaim it. So I thought I'd try this a second time because I thought this was interesting. Technology at its finest, fucking with us, because that's what's happening in the world. So what I was discussing on my page was about how the collective is going through really this desperate energy. And it's really important that you check yourself and know yourself. Because if you don't know yourself and you are just going out seeking human interaction and engagement, you're going to be putting yourself in very Oh, dire consequences, circumstances compromising your integrity and your personal being, your body. You just never know. Because when you have these different energies, like desperation, you are like a magnet to attack. There are pariahs. There are people who prey on the desperate. Think about this. And don't you think that's kind of a little bit of a setup? If people have been in isolation so long, they've been away from humans, they need, like, oh my gosh, I just want to see somebody, be with somebody. I need somebody to love, like, really? Sit with that. We all need human interaction because that's what humans are all about. Humans in unity equals humanity. Otherwise, you don't have humanity. Heart connection, heart coherence. The fact that 6 feet is about breaking that heart to heart. Like, I feel you, brother. I feel you, sister. You know what I mean? Like, we get each other when we're together. We're more powerful in numbers. There's always an agenda behind it if you can read between the lines. You know what I mean? Like, really get it. But the desperation is really thick right now. And I'm sitting and listening, I should say, to people talk about how they just want to hook up or meet someone or be with someone. And I'm sitting there going, in these times, are you kidding me? Do you really want to just put yourself out there? Be selective. Set standards. Hold people accountable, especially yourself, to your own standards. Be responsible for the choices you make, because that affects the rest of your life. Most of us, if you reach a certain age, it's like you're no longer a child. You know better. You sense into your intuition like, oh, I probably shouldn't be doing this. And then what do? Do you just do it anyway? How many of you have that after, what do we call that? The buyer's remorse. Yeah, I knew I shouldn't have gone out. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done that. Like, if you have that gut feeling, that's your fucking intuition. Listen to it. It's trying to tell you something. The body doesn't lie. It's always giving you the signs you need. If I couldn't express this enough. This is my passion. This is my work. Like, where do you feel it in your body? This is where you need to be tapping in and tuning in. Desperation is like jittery, ungrounded energy. It's like, gotta do it now. There's no thinking, it's doing. And that in itself is disconnected. It's flighty. And that's how butterflies get caught if they're not paying attention. If you're not grounded in your physical body and you're recognizing that, hey, dude, I just want what I want, and not considering the consequences of the wanting what you want, that's on you. And we all have been there and had the buyer's remorse, been like, oh my God, what was I thinking? I wish I hadn't have done that. Oh, I felt that. I knew. My spidey senses were on high alert. Trust it. Always trust your intuition, your gut, because the body's always telling you if you're willing to listen. This is the tapping into your body's wisdom, feeling it to heal it. There are times when we're like, fuck, I feel shitty. Go in the mirror and go just own that. When you own it and claim it, nobody can hold it against you. And it's so nobody can hold that shit against you. The flinging monkey shit at each other, because that's kind of what's going on in the world. Everybody's flinging their shit at each other. And guess what? Your shit shows. And it's a shit show, isn't it? Don't fall prey to the shit show. Don't be flinging your shit out there and just hoping anybody will just come on at you the way you think you should have them come at you. Because the thing is if you're in desperation, the desperation's going to capture you. You'll become victim to your desperation. The energy that you carry will bring to you that matching energy. We need to be more attuned to where we're at. Because whatever shows up to us, relationship, this is what life's all about. Life will show up to you where you're at. If you're desperate, desperate times call for desperate measures, end up in desperate situations. If you're so desperate, you may find yourself in a desperate situation, destitute, and really feeling like, holy shit, what did I just get myself into? And I've been in those situations. In fact, that just brings up a whole interesting situation. Years ago, I was living in Italy with my girlfriend Deborah, who I was communicating with earlier. And it was before the days of social media. And we kind of chuckle and say, you know, we were the girls before social media. Like, we had the in to the clubs and everything. We had gone up in Milan. There was Milano, with Hollywood, Club Hollywood. So we knew Max and, gosh, his partner. We had gone there and she hooked up with somebody and I went with them back to the apartment, and there were other characters that were there. And I wanted to go back to my hotel because I just didn't feel the vibe was very comfortable. And fortunately, I felt comfortable with one guy. This was years ago. But the guy who was giving me a ride home was giving a ride home to the other person too. He wanted to drop the other guy off first and then drop me off. And because he had kind of like a vampire, like prey upon women type vibe, I asked the other guy, I said, would you please be okay with coming with me, making sure that I get out at my hotel safely? And I'm grateful that it ended up that way. But I mean, things like that can happen where you're stuck and you don't know how you're going to get out of a situation. Don't put yourself in situations out of desperation that make you desperate in the end, right? So we have to own our own energy when we go into situations. We have to be personally responsible. Take accountability. Whoa, I'm in this vibe. I better stay home tonight. You know, why are you so desperate to run out and compromise your integrity, compromise yourself, your being, your temple, just for a fleeting moment that maybe actually might be the one thing you regret? Buyer's remorse. So like really tap into this. Right now, that's a collective energy. It's not just you. If you're like really missing people, wanting whatever, feeling destitute, like, you know, something's missing, sit with that and ask, like, really, where do you feel it in your body? What do you really feel like you're missing? What is it you think you're not giving yourself first? That you can pick up the phone and call a good friend, take a walk. You don't have to put yourself in a compromising situation that will maybe get you hurt or in a very desperate situation. So I just really wanted to tap into this because this is what I'm feeling in the collective. I've been feeling it for a few days, but as you noticed, I was banned from commenting or liking or posting anything because I'm such a threat to society. Yeah, it's a crackdown, and all eyes on us. Because when you speak truth, and everyone out there, I don't care if you speak truth or lies, if you're feeling like you're being silenced or you have to even censor your own verbiage, that's not right. That's a sign in itself that there's something not right. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to like what I say. But I will defend your right to say and be you, just as I would anticipate and expect the same in return. I'm not here to force anybody to do anything they shouldn't do. And I certainly don't expect that upon myself. I believe in the golden rule. Do unto others as you would want done unto you. Is that so hard to do? There's a lot of interesting stuff I've been sitting with. I mean, I have a whole lot of messages just pouring through me. The big way that we're going to save the world, shift humanity into the healing is to get out of the complaining. So all of this past year has been complain, life isn't the way I want it, and you're glued to technology and technology overload. Cold depression, it's a real thing. Like, this isn't even real. Like, I'm not here with you, and I don't like that. But I do try to harness it for the good of supporting humanity and people who want to evolve and grow. That's why I'm putting together this 11-week course for women in wellness, because it's about a sacred circle. Each week is going to be a theme. And I want you to elevate your vibration, because your vibe influences the collective vibe. And that when we're together in group, we're more powerful. And when you start honing in on your life and where it is you need to work, what is not working, what is it you want out of life, you set intention. This is where I'm at, and this is where I want to be. That we work together to help bring that to light, to manifest that. And if we are in constant complaint, we're just creating more to complain about. But if we're in constant compliment, gratitude, like life isn't happening to us, it's happening for us, and we're creating it. But if we're caught up in the atrocities of the world that are happening and always have been happening, it's just we didn't have technology and the mainstream media to tell us all about it and to put its spin on it and to feed off of our emotions and to play on us. Because all that is there to downplay our lives, to take us out of our peace and off of our path. And the truth of the matter is, there will always be some form of an atrocity occurring somewhere, someplace. But don't play the martyr and don't play the victim to something that has nothing to do with you. That you work on you. You heal your heart and soul. You do what it is that brings you joy. Elevate yourself so that you don't contribute to the problems. You contribute to the whole solutions. When you are whole, a whole being, you're more powerful. And yes, you do affect the world. So many people can idly sit back and go, hey, it's been that way. What makes you think that one person's going to make a difference? I'm here to tell you, if it wasn't for one person, there wouldn't be another and another and another. Because for every one person that speaks up, they're speaking for hundreds more. For every one person that's courageous enough to stand in their truth, to not allow whoever, whatever, to shut them down or silence them. That's giving everyone else courage. And, look, potential. In the face of fear, when you stand and you rise, you create a movement. One person, two people, three people. It's a multiplication. You can add it up. You can sit on your thumbs and act like, oh, one person doesn't make a difference. I'm here to call bullshit on that. Because it's a movement of many. And it's all up to you to speak your truth. For you speaking your truth is speaking the truth for others too. For every one person that doesn't speak, and you do, you are the voice of the silent. And that's how I feel sometimes when I speak, is I speak for many. I don't see myself as me. I'm not here to gain clout or popularity. I could really give a shit less. To be totally honest with you, I could completely unplug. There's a part of my heart and soul that says that's not what you're here to do. You're not here to play small. And you're not here to cower. Yeah, to harness the power of social media for as long as we possibly can until you move to another platform, until you find your way and find your space and place. Maybe I do disappear, and you might have to find me elsewhere. And that's where I encourage you to follow me on the other platforms that I'm on. Instagram, YouTube. I'm on Rumble now. Clapper. I mean, I've got TikTok, but even there, it just feels wishy-washy. I'm on Gab. There's some others now. Atlas. Like, I mean, it's overwhelming. There has to be this ability to speak freely without any type of like, oh, misinformation. Oh, it's fact-checked. I mean, seriously? Are we being treated like adults or children here? It's obnoxious to me. It's insulting to my intelligence. And I just find it like, why? If it weren't for us, they didn't exist. They were wanting us to feel like this is the place to be. This is the clique you want to belong to. But the truth is, if we all unplugged, bye-bye, you no longer exist. How much power do they have then? Think about it. That's the true nature of people in numbers. That's the true nature of unplugging and recognizing I don't have to enable or contribute. I mean, my information has been stolen. You already know my other account was disabled and deleted. To me, that's stealing. Stealing my life, my personal information, my videos, my pains, my joys, my suffering. All on a database, and they keep that stuff. And they monetize off of it because they sell your data. They sell it whether or not you're alive, you're dead, or whatever. They're always listening. They're always watching. Big brother, they want you. How desperate are you? How desperate? Because that's what they're feeding on. When it really boils down to it, they're feeding on your energy. That's the true vampire. That's what we're dealing with and what we have been dealing with. And that's where this past year has brought out people's traumas, their triggers, their shadows, and what needs to be healed in you individually and also humanity. The desperation to even continuously contribute to social media that doesn't give back. If anything, it slap on the wrist, penalize. How dare you speak your truth? How dare you share somebody else's information? We'll penalize you for that. That's what happened to me. I shared, if you don't know about Nurse Erin, clearly they're targeting her. I shared in my stories on Instagram, and because it trickles over to my Facebook page, my Lana A. Labonte, that's how I got penalized for 24 hours and I couldn't post. I figured that out because that happened the last time, and they claimed I had posted nudity, and that was another post that wasn't even mine. I just shared it. It's like, God forbid, but yet they don't hold other things accountable. See, this is where people aren't questioning anything. It's okay for porn, child porn, and sex trafficking to be happening on these platforms. But for little itty bitty things, they're going to target you. I'm just saying, be aware. We got their number too. All you got to do is unplug, say goodbye. And I'm not saying that's the way I want it to be, because I really do feel that, it brought a lot of us together. I'm not the throw the baby out with the bath water type, because I've always been saying from the start, harness the power of the internet for the power of good to support, uplift, inspire, and empower each other. Like, really, that's been my tagline forever. And the truth is that we're here for one another, and we should be. And even though you're seeing me in a video, doesn't mean I'm not here, heart and soul. So Buddy's basically making his noise. It's time for his walk. I love each and every one of you, and I hope that this message reaches those of you who need to hear it. And just remember and catch yourself, if you're complaining, you're adding fuel to their fire. That makes you part of the problem. Check yourself when you're complaining or commiserating with other people. Move it toward gratitude. What do you got to be grateful for? Because that's what we need more of. We need to up the vibe, not lower the vibe. They are banking and literally gambling, playing with our lives on you doing the wrong thing. because you're predictable. I want you to know this. That's how they predict and send you ideas of what you should buy. Predictive programming. So, gratitude's where it's at. Don't be desperate. They know where you're at. I love you.